Hello and welcome to a new edition of True Audio Files. Today I am going to do my long-awaited sound quality shootout for the Miles Davis Vinyl Me Please Electric Years box set. I apologize for the delay for those of you who have been waiting. Life, as it often does, got in the way. So unfortunately, I could not get to this the way I really wanted to do it until this week. Anyways, I am going to be doing the last four albums of the box set. So there's Live Evil, On the Corner, Big Fun, and Get Up With It. And I'll go over them one by one, and we'll tell you how I feel about them and how they compare to the versions that I previously had. So to kind of give you a little bit of a reminder for those of you who always watch my videos or sometimes watch my videos, or for those of you who just don't know, generally how I do these is I will listen to the new reissue that comes out. Generally, that's when I do these sound quality shootouts. Listen to it all the way through, kind of figure out which songs would be the best songs to do A-B comparisons on, so I can do a quick A-B between the different versions of the album I have, or the versions of the album, that I have. So, and then I give my take on it, and here we are now. So let's do that for right now. So first up, as I had mentioned, is going to be Live Evil. So this is the Vinyl Me Please version. I don't want to put the cover art up too much just because of the nudity on it, but you got the gatefold here. And what I tested it up against is I had three different versions of Live Evil. So I had the Record Store Day version, which came out a few years ago. I can't remember exactly when, but this is the Record Store Day version, which was is a light blue, opaque teal vinyl, they called it. I also have a first pressing that I just recently acquired not that long ago, which I'm excited about. It was very good timing. And this one I can show as much as I want because it's basically the club edition, which they edited the cover immensely. And it actually has different, I probably should have shown the different labels, but anyways, this also has a different label. So kind of interesting label on this one compared to the other ones, but it's essentially, looks like it's like an early cut of the, maybe just pressed at different plants or something like that. But anyway, so I did the Live Evil and played them through, and I gotta say, they're very close, all of them. The sound stage on all of them were nearly identical. I had a very hard time hearing a difference between the sound stages of all of them. The biggest differences that I heard were on the EQ side of things. So on the Vinyl Me Please version, had a little bit more treble, a little bit more bass than, say, the first pressing. Actually, the first pressing in that club version, which I had talked about, which probably came out around the same time, I think, those sounded nearly identical. I really couldn't hear a difference between the two. And then when I played the Record Store Day version, it sounded pretty close to the Vinyl Me Please. I would say the biggest difference that I picked up on is it seemed a little thinner in sound, like maybe the mid-range or lower mid-range especially may have been scooped out a little bit, but still sounded really good. And it would be I'd be hard pressed to pick a clear cut advantage over any of them. I mean, I guess it's all a question of your EQ taste. So, if you like a little bit of treble, or I should say a little bit more treble, a little bit more bass, or, for example, if you've got an early pressing and you found that maybe it was lacking in treble or bass, then I would definitely say the Vinyl Me Please or the Record Store Day version would be the one for you, with the Vinyl Me Please one giving you the edge because of the mid-range scoop out on the Record Store Day one. Record Store Day one's just cool because it's blue. I guess I can't resist. I will show. So that's one of the cool things. So as you can see, nice kind of cool color of it, and kind of matches the some of the colors in the front cover. So, all right. So that was Live Evil. So very, very little difference between the two, or I should say between all of them. Virtually no difference between, like I said, the club version and the first pressing. So next up is On the Corner. So this one, here's the Vinyl Me Please version of it. Then we have so I had two others, okay? I have the Mobile Fidelity, and I'm looking forward to checking out the Mobile Fidelity Super Vinyl if it ever comes out. But anyways, that's the regular Mobile Fidelity. And then this is a first pressing of On the Corner. So interesting enough, this says for sale only aboard U.S. Navy ships abroad. But if you look at the stampers, it's actually a first pressing. So, and On the Corner is one of my favorite records of all time. So, listened to the Vinyl Me Please, sounded really pretty good. Good even tone and things on that nature. But then I put on the MoFi, and the MoFi just was noticeably better, in my opinion, anyways. I felt the sound stage was a little wider. There was kind of a more 3D sound to the record, and in terms of really giving space between all the instruments, and just it sounded more natural. There were a little bit more highs also in the Vinyl Me Please, and there was a tape splice on the track On the Corner, pretty close to the beginning of the track, and that was definitely a lot more evident that it was a splice or a cut in. On the Mobile Fidelity, it was just that much more apparent because it just the clarity seemed to be a little bit more there. Although the Vinyl Me Please is no slouch by any stretch, so it was very good. So, but it was clearly, in my opinion, the Mobile Fidelity was clearly better. In my opinion, I definitely felt that it had the better sound. Then I put the first pressing on, and I have to say that the one thing that the Vinyl Me Please does do is I think it does better the original. The original is definitely a narrower sound stage. I believe that there was a little bit less treble and bass than the Vinyl Me Please, although not by a ton, but definitely less. And so I felt the Vinyl Me Please was definitely better than the first pressing. I wouldn't say dramatically better, but definitely the wider sound stage was more apparent. The 3D sound to it, if you will, was definitely similar on the first pressing in comparison to the Vinyl Me Please. But clear winner to me, and it was probably one of the more obvious ones of all the Miles Davis ones here, was definitely the Mobile Fidelity one. I felt was just obviously to me better, but opinions can be different, and different systems can make it sound different. So, but that was my take. I definitely noticed many things on it that gave it the advantage over all the other versions. So, all right. So next up is Big Fun, and I have to admit this is actually the Vinyl Me Please version. I have to admit that I had never actually listened to this album before today. I had this copy, which is a first pressing, that I've actually had in my collection for a little while, but just have not been able to get around to listening to it. But so I had the first pressing and the Vinyl Me Please. One of the things that I would have to say that was very unusual for this record, it seems like, because it came out when stereo was relatively new in terms of trying to do some freaky stuff with stereo, and this album is no exception. I mean, they did. And it's not even really panning. They swapped the channels back and forth, especially like on the percussion and just everything. And it really makes it a difficult listen, to be honest with you. And that switching back and forth was definitely more evident to me on the Vinyl Me Please version. I also thought the Vinyl Me Please had a little bit more treble, and maybe that's why well, it's not panning, so I don't know what else to call it, but the quick switch back and forth between left and right channels of in the mix was definitely a lot more obvious and glaring on the Vinyl Me Please. The one other thing that was kind of odd, though, is it seems like they panned the entire drum set. So when you're listening to the first pressing, like you hear the bass drum in the right speaker, then you hear the bass drum in the left. On the first press, on the Vinyl Me Please, it seems like they summed the bass more so on them, like they sometimes will do on records. So the bass drum didn't seem to go left to right as obviously, on the Vinyl Me Please, which I thought was kind of odd. But, you know, this one was a hard listen because I think I liked the music. It just was hard to listen to sometimes because of all the crazy stereo stuff they were trying to do with it to try to really fully take advantage of stereo. So, um, I probably would give the edge a little bit to the Vinyl Me Please, just because I thought it did have a little bit more clarity, but it was at the expense of really hearing that switching left to right often, and it was most obvious on. Actually, one of the other things that I thought was really wild was on "Go Ahead, John." The guitar seemed to like kind of. It almost sounded like it was going in and out like the cable from the microphone to the mixing board was going in and out, because it would get louder and softer, and I think that was more. I'm assuming that was intentional, and it was kind of just the stereo effect they were trying to go for, and or just the weird effects they're trying to go for on that. But it was kind of weird. I thought there was something wrong with my Vinyl Me Please version until I put the original first pressing on, and it did the same thing. So anyways, that's my take on Big Fun. Next up, and at last, and certainly not least, is Get Up With It. So this is the Vinyl Me Please version of it, and I am very fortunate to also have, I'm going to take it out of the plastic, a white label promo version of the record as well. So as you can see here, white label promo, very cool. And I'd have to say that with this one, there was very, very little difference. And I tried a few different tracks to try to see, if there was a difference in the soundstage depth, or soundstage width, EQ, things like that. There's definitely more upper high end on the Vinyl Me Please, which is pretty typical for a modern mastering on record in comparison to maybe the earlier original ones, just because that's what they just tended to roll off the high end a little bit more on these older pressings or older cuts. But I have to say that they were nearly identical. It was very hard to be able to really say that one stood out over the other. If you like a little bit more treble, I would definitely go with the Vinyl Me Please. And in my opinion, on my system, it seemed to me that it gave it a little bit better or a little bit more clarity, especially on the cymbals and higher frequency instruments, and just the higher frequencies. So, but they're nearly identical. I mean, it was very, very hard for me to say that one was clearly better than the other one, because they were very, very close. And there were times where I was having a hard time. I thought that I was listening to the Vinyl Me Please, because at first I thought the Vinyl Me Please had a little bit more soundstage depth, but then I was listening, I looked up and I'm like, oh, it's the white label promo. So they're both very, very good. And like I said, maybe a slight edge, very slight edge to the Vinyl Me Please because of the more treble, which I am a bigger fan of. But both had a great bass, pretty deep bass. I didn't really notice much, if any, of a difference in bass at all between them. It's possible that, traditionally, the newer cuts typically have deeper bass, but this Get Up With It white label promo had quite a bit of bass on it. So that's it. I would say overall, the box set was great. And, if you're really into Miles and maybe you don't have some of these albums, and especially if you don't have the Mobile Fidelity versions, or you have beat up copies of some early pressings, I think it's definitely worth your time, especially if you really like this era of Miles as well. It's definitely one of my favorites, barring Big Fun maybe. But it's a great box set. They took some great care in it. They used some high quality jackets. The pressings were actually impressive. They were done by GZ Vinyl, which they are usually a really big crapshoot. Sometimes they do good pressings, sometimes they don't. I would say overall, just about every single one of these was really, really good. And during the quiet parts of the recordings, it actually was very quiet. The tape hiss was louder than the surface noise, which doesn't happen very often. So, yeah, overall, I would say if you were hesitating on getting this box set and you wanted to get another opinion on it, I definitely think it's worth it, especially again if you don't have all the mobile fidelities and maybe you have some beat up copies of the early pressings. And but some of the early pressings weren't as good, like for example On the Corner. If you really like On the Corner, and you don't have the MoFi, although I think you can buy the MoFi and you don't want to wait for the super vinyl, but just in general, it, you're not going to go wrong if you get it, because it definitely sounds great. There's nothing to really complain about on this. If I didn't have the mobile fidelities, I would probably have been really, really happy with it and very glad I bought it. I mean, overall, I am happy I got it because I did upgrade at least a couple of my records. So like, the Big Fun, and also maybe get up with it a little bit. So, but yeah, that is my take on it. Actually, yeah, the Live Evil was actually a little bit better as well. So, you know, uh, so there were some advantages to buying it for me too. So, but anyways, that is my take. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Have you done some comparisons with some older versions of Miles Davis records from this box set, the Electric Years, and what are your thoughts on it? I'd love to hear what you have to say. As you can see, I got the new One Step from Bruce Springsteen, Asbury Park. I will probably be doing a sound quality shootout on that within the next week, hopefully. Cross my fingers that I will find some time to be able to do that. But that's everything for me this week. I want to thank you for watching. I want you to thank you for subscribing if you have. If you haven't, please do so. Please hit that like button if you liked the video, and hit that alert bell if you want to know when my new videos come out. So thanks a lot. You have yourself a great rest of your day and a great rest of the week. Thanks a lot.